Okay, here we've got a year 2000 Toyota Camry. We've got this peculiar type of wear in the paint, so it's sort of like a patterned wearing in the paint. On the other side it's okay. Okay, so looks like the paint's coming off and it's exposing metal or the undercoat. Again, on this side it is only on one side. So what I'll be doing is just a very basic type of painting. I won't be using spray paint. I will be using rust paint, White King rust paint. So I'll just be giving it a sand back, getting rid of these pits here as much as possible. It doesn't have to be perfect. I'm going to tape along here. That's the door rubber there, so tape up the raw door rubber, come down here and just make a loop around there. To get the paint mixed, I removed this small bit here. I'll be replacing that with silicone, so that's just a bit of the moulding. And I got this paint here. Okay, that probably won't focus. This is a Motorola. I've tried to focus that, but it won't. I'm not too sure about whether that's going to focus. Okay, but I believe it is White King Rust Guard. Okay, we'll just try with the sun on it there. So this is 1 litre of paint, and yeah, that's basically it. That's what I'm going to use for taping off. I'll use a combination of a plasterer's sander. It's interesting to note that when he showed me the colour of the paint as a specimen on the part that I took in, the side moulding, it wasn't the same, and the reason for that is this is metallic paint. So when you take a picture of metallic paint, it comes back in the paint mixing computer as a lighter colour because it's got the reflective ability. But I said, well, you know, just get as close as you can. So this is not supposed to be a perfect job. It's just to cover up the exposed metal or the areas where the paint's missing, and just to have it look a bit neater, and that there won't be any issues down the road. Okay, so at this point I'm just going to pan around the car and compare it with the finished product. I don't know whether I'm going to give this a top coat. We also have areas where the paint is lifting on the bonnet here. Okay, so I'm thinking I might give that some clear coat. I don't know, but at the moment we're just looking at the top of the car, and I've got some ideas of what I'm going to do, what tools I'm going to use, but it's best to come back when it's finished and make a summary video then. Okay, until then, over and out. Okay, the first thing I notice is that I'll have to start off with 120 grit on a plasterer's sanding block for this damaged area, and then I think the rest will be just finishing off with I think it's 240 grit sandpaper. So that's the 120 grit. and I'll finish off with this. Okay, so there she is, ready to be painted. Didn't take that long. This side here was the easiest because the paint is kind of deteriorated. Okay. This side a little bit harder because any indentations has got a thicker and harder quality of paint. I'll show you what I used in a second. Okay, so the process was using the sanding block on the top of the car with 120 grit sandpaper. For the side I used a sanding block with 120 grit sandpaper around it to do in the crevices, the round crevice here and the V crevice here. Once the sanding was done, I used 3 microfiber cloths. I went over it with this one, then this one, and finished off with this one. I don't like to use any type of solvent to wipe off anything. This is fresh paint, it doesn't have any oil or grease on it. The Chevrolet C20, I used soap and warm water and I think it was a cloth to clean it. Okay, so I just have to make sure that, you know, there's no missing tape. And then I'm going to use a roller and these sponge rollers, the round ones. I'm not going to use the material or cloth ones, so that's the type there. That goes on that there, that pushes on, and I'll get my paint and I'll just roll it on. Okay, it's the 18th of the 2nd, 2023. So a couple of weeks after the first lot of work was done. Looking along the top, it's dried with this, you might be able to see it here, how the overlapping, so if I rolled this side, when I went around to the other side and rolled it, there's an overlap. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to give this a sand. I've grown used to the different colour, and it kind of looks a little bit like an old-fashioned vinyl roof or material lining. I think it's going to look okay, but I'll give this a light sand and another coat. So with the front, what I've decided to do here is the paint itself is pretty good. It's just got these kind of pits. At this stage, what I'm going to do is give it a light sand with wet and dry. I've got a 600 grit wet and dry. I'll give it a light sand. But right now, for this car, you know, it's got about 270,000 kilometres on it. I'm happy with the condition of the bonnet. I just want to make sure nothing else is going to happen. So yeah, just light sand the roof of the car, give that another coat tomorrow morning. The reason I say tomorrow morning is it's pretty much the middle of summer in terms of temperature, so the second month into summer. And if it becomes too dry, if it becomes too hot, it'll dry by the time you get to the other side and roll on the other side. You'll have like an overlap. What I'm going to do this time as well after sanding is I'll roll this about 1 metre or 600 up, then I'll go to the other side so that the overlap is less prominent when it dries, and then I'll give that a top coat before it dries. So I'll wait a couple of hours and I'll give that a clear coat. The reason you don't let paint completely dry is because the top coat won't bond to it. I think they were doing that in the 1990s. They were at the factories, they would paint or apply the top coat the next day, and so 20-30 years later the top coat's starting to come off. So yeah, just sand and apply a clear coat, and with the bonnet just sand it with 600 grit wet and dry and give it a clear coat. And that's the paint that I've shown before. That's White King, and that was a match up at I took a piece of moulding into Bunnings and they matched up with this colour. So I think I've shown that before, but it is a different texture and colour. But you know, I'm looking for durability, and I think all this work will work. Okay, well the roof is sanded, the bonnet is sanded, or the hood. What I did was I used this 600 grit wet and dry sandpaper. I did have to wet it, so I've got a small bucket, my special bucket, and microfiber cloth, and I had a fair amount of water on it, but I wet down the surface, and then I just did a circular motion. I went up on any ridges, so there's a ridge here, I would go up on the ridge there and all around. I taped up the nozzles. With the ridges I went over especially with a piece of wet and dry I had used, so just up along the ridge there, around there and across there, and then just wipe it off and keep cleaning the water out and wipe it off and clean it up. Now there is an issue. We do have a spot of rust here. So that's it there. But apart from that, I think there was another small bit here. So anyway, that's the hood, and as it's drying we can see that it's been sanded here. It looks slightly abrased there, and doesn't have the glossy look of where the water is. So that's I've just got to get some of the paint I used for the roof and just tape it up and put a few dobs on the rust spots there. With the ceiling, with the roof, that's all well sanded. That'll be good for application of more paint. However, unfortunately, might be able to see it, may not be able to see it. Just here, yeah, we can see there that some of the original paint did come through. Either was lightly coated there, or I just spent too much time sanding there. Because of that, I'm going to say that I think it was 1,000, 1,200 or 200 or 1,600 grit. You can get a finer grit of sandpaper, and I think I would tend to use that grade of sandpaper for the finishing off. As we can see, there's a good bit of gloss there. That's because of the sanding. The overlap's gone. You can see here there's no more overlap, but as I say, the 600 grit wet and dry sandpaper is probably a little bit too coarse. So you live and learn. So I'd recommend the finest wet and dry grade sandpaper. Okay, so I'll be the guinea pig as usual. A lot of my videos of me doing work for the first time, and I do, you know, I'm open about that. So there you go, that's my technique. And what I'll do today is apply another coat to the top. I did try a forward and back motion. You may be able to see that through there. However, I did find that not to be as good as the swirling action. The sandpaper will stop, and you just have to lift it up a bit and keep going. It will jam on the surface. Any more painting I do, because as I say, it's it's not the middle of summer, but it's the hottest time of summer. We're in the halfway through the second month. Because of that, any painting I do will be in the morning when it's cooler, and you won't get that edge to it, that overlap to it when you swap over to the other side. This is more of a talk through video, just for simplicity and keeping the video as short as possible, but I think it's common knowledge that it's very hard to produce a very short and informative video, unless you take the major points out of a video and sew them together, and that can also work. So yeah, today I'll just put a few daubs of rust paint on the rust on the hood or bonnet, and I'll roll another coat on the roof, and that's all I can do. Maybe I'll have to give that a light sand. Maybe I'll use the 1600 grit there, or the 1200, whatever it is, and apply a clear coat and finish that maybe next weekend. I don't know if I said it before, but if you don't use water, then as you're sanding the paint, the sandpaper will clog up with a type of mud, and the dry sandpaper will the paint will stick to the sandpaper and it will no longer work. But if you sand with the water, then it'll dissolve, and then it'll be okay. Okay, so it's the next day, and it's been sanded back, and the other section here just to sand it flat. As we can see, I've spent more time here with the wet and dry where the paint was applied, and we can see that it's a little bit of a different texture. It's sanded more heavily than the rest, but the rest is sanded. So with that, I'm happy. Okay, it's now Easter Saturday, the 8th of the 4th, 2023. I've got 2 cans of clear coat spray on can. So this is the product I'm going to be using. This wasn't available. It was out of stock for about a month, but eventually I got somebody decided to look in the back of the shop and was able to find 2 of these cans. Now the roof is another story altogether. So I looked into it even more, and I got a spray can made up at Super Cheap Auto, but that's the colour there, and we can see clearly that it's sort of a rosy or pinker colour. I did bring in the paint code from this car, but yeah, that's not a good match, and that's Bunnings match, and we can see that that's absolutely not the right colour. I also went to Toyota shop, and they didn't have any paint at all. to supply. So that's the very best that we can do. I did sand this with, it did have some streaks from the roller. I sanded this with this wet and dry 1200 grit. It says 120 there, but there's 2 zeros here. Okay, and the paper's cut. That's 1200 grit. I was able to get some streaks out, however, this morning I see that they're still there, but just not as bad. So standing here on top of the car, may be able to see just over there some streaks, and maybe along here. But that's acceptable. That'll be sprayed with clear coat as well. So that's what it'll be. That's, except for going to a paint shop and getting them to spray it, that's the best you can do here is that colour there. The texture, I thought I was thinking of rolling it with like a material type of roller, like this one here. By the way, it's a really nice day. We're in the 4th month, and the first 3 months in Australia are very, very hot, and that's probably why the streaking was on top of the car, because of the heat. It's nice cool temperature, very comfortable today. But yeah, I was going to use a material roller and apply the same colour paint with that. The reason for that would be to try and get it to look like an old-fashioned material lining. There are a few other things I wanted to point out. So all I'm going to do now is spray it. It's going to be a bit hard to film it because it is an important part of the job. I might just try and get one shot of the hood or something. Yeah, so that's it. I just wanted to show the can from Super Cheap Auto colour. Yep, that's it. He mixed it up and put it in a can. Got the directions of use there. You may have to pause and rewind a few times to read all of this. Okay, it's a bit hard to read it because it goes halfway around the can, you know. So, but I'll explain the main points of that. So the main directions are, I've got my scribble here, but I don't have much time, and this is all done with the limited time I've got, so I have to write it out fast. Anyway, hold the can upright 20 to 25 centimetres away from the surface, which is a fair amount. It's like, sort of like way back here, you know. Light, even, overlapping strokes. Allow 20 minutes to dry between coats, which isn't long. Of course, that would depend on the temperature, but it's only 20 minutes. Apply 3 to 5 coats for a smooth, even coat. Light coats will prevent runs and sagging. After coats, turn the can upside down and spray to clear the nozzle. Leave the final coat for 4 hours to dry, or dry overnight, and then polish with a cut and polish. So that's a type of polish. You just get it out, get it on a microfiber cloth, which is one of them. That's a microfiber cloth. You get it from a hardware store. You get this from get polishes from a auto parts shop, and that's how you finish the clear coat. Okay, but this has to be finished now. I can't. I think this has been on the go for 3 months. Okay, well that's the work done now. So it's 4 coats on the bonnet or the hood, and yeah, 5 coats and 4 coats on the top of the car. You can see it looks it's got a bit of a white haze to it, and what has to happen now is it has to be polished up. Okay, so anyway, now I can take everything off. I can continue on with the end of year reset. So I've got to clean inside and do a little bit of engine work. Most of it's done. I have to take off the wheels and just make sure there's no rust, and just tread it behind the wheels. So with the spray can, there's always a trick to everything, and with this, it's a good idea to wear gloves, but make sure that with your spray finger, this one here, the glove is on tight and pulled back, okay, because if the glove overhangs and obstructs the jet, the paint coming out, then you'll get you'll get clumps of it on your work. With safety gear, unfortunately, if you're a young bloke, just grabbing a can and going over and spraying it, unfortunately, just doesn't work. There's also your health and your longevity. It's a good idea to wear eye protection, but I wear glasses for reading, only for stuff, So I can read this, but that, no. Actually, in the 1980s, we never had writing that small. So that's a fairly new thing. Okay, well, I think that's it now. Don't think there's anything more to add. I think it's just a matter of showing it when it's finished and polished. Excuse my stuttering, but I've got a fair bit to do. I've had a fair bit thrown at me recently. But anyway, yeah, that's it. I think, that's the paint, that's the clear coat, the 1200 grit just to make sure it was okay. I'm getting blown away here. Yeah, so that's it. Yes, I went in a few wrong directions. Now I know that for clear coat, for the top coat, you just get cans and spray it on. But anyway, that's the way to go. It's a bit of a rough texture, but as I say, it has to have the polish applied to it. Been sitting for about close to half an hour, and we can see there's a few damp spots there. Okay, there's a bit of wind, but at this point in time, I suppose I'm just digressing or just wasting time, so I'll show it when it's finished. Okay, we're in our time machine now, and today's date is 14th of the 2nd, 2024. Forgot I still have some notes to talk about. Look, when I taped up and after spraying the clear coat, after 2 hours I took all the taping up. I removed all of the tape a little bit too early, and some areas did actually peel off. So you may be able to see a little sort of a V notched out section there, and on the other side you can probably see this one that's probably more prominent just toward the front there. So I had to respray this because some of it did actually lift after 2 hours. So you may want to wait, say 24 hours, before removing the tape. When I watched the video for editing, I noticed that I did it as per the directions. However, along here you can see here where I'm about 100 mil out, and here when I'm very close. So where I'm very close, you can see here that it's shinier and of better quality. I'll try shining the light. Probably not as good, but we can see as we turn here, I sprayed close also along the back, and we can see that it's, it's more glossy. Along the back there, you can see the ridge between that and here where I sprayed closely. So we'll just work our way along here. Okay, that's the only extra I needed to add, so all the best. I hope it works out for you.